All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. So we are just a little over 2 weeks away from training camp to officially start for the Ravens as well as the other NFL teams. So football is finally coming back. We're all excited. We know shortly after the training camp starts, preseason's here and then the NFL season's here. So we're excited. We can't wait for football to be back. And I know us, the Ravens flock, we're excited for this upcoming season. We got a lot of hopes and expectations for this squad. And hopefully we can break through and finally get to the Super Bowl and hopefully win the championship this year. The last couple years have definitely been difficult. We've gotten to the divisional round and we had a really good chance to get to the AFC Championship game. In one of those situations, we could have hosted the championship game in Baltimore. Unfortunately, we came up short in one of them, and the other one, we just couldn't get anything done. Last year was definitely difficult because it really felt like we could have beat the Bills. Our defense played fantastic against the Bills. But at the end of the day, offensively, we just couldn't get anything going on the drives. Lamar ended up throwing that pick six in the third quarter, and it looked all bad. It just looked bad. We couldn't get anything going. The offense was flat overall, and it was terrible. It was a tough way to end the season. But this year, we've got some changes. We made a lot of changes, especially offensively. We've added pieces, and we're just hopeful that this year we'll break through. So, since we're talking about expectations, let's get into the expectations, or at least the Ravens flock's expectations of our team this upcoming season. So let's get started. First off, we're going to start with our main man, our quarterback, number 8, Lamar Action Jackson. What do we have for him this year? What can we expect to see from Lamar this year? Well, for me personally, I expect Lamar to be a lot more accurate and more consistent as a passer than he was last year. And I expect to see somewhat of a resurgence to his MVP form as compared to last year. Because last year was a bit of a down year. Statistic-wise, I expected it to be a down year for him because he had a freaking historical MVP season. That was one of the greatest quarterback seasons we've ever seen. Look at it statistically. Just go look at the statistics, the level of competition, all of it. Just look at the breakdown and you'll see it's one of the greatest quarterback seasons we've ever seen. He goes from a historical season to last season when we're dealing with the whole pandemic, and of course his numbers are going to go down. So that was definitely tough. But this year I'm hoping to see a resurgence back into MVP form for Lamar Jackson. I believe he's going to have a great year. I can easily see him throwing over 3,500 yards, probably somewhere between 3,500 and 3,800 passing yards. 33 touchdowns somewhere, maybe 7 interceptions. That's an MVP type season right there. So I can definitely see Lamar going off, and I see him actually rushing for 700 to 800 yards. It's between there. I am one of the people that do not believe Lamar Jackson is going to rush for 1,000 yards. And I feel the reason for that is because he's not going to get nearly as much of the carries he was getting before. And that's going to have to deal with the running game and the passing game as well, which we will get into. So yeah, Lamar's carries, I expect them to go down. I expect to see him passing the ball a little bit more, running the ball a little bit less, because there'll be less designed runs for him to take. And overall, I see Lamar being more consistent throwing the ball, especially downfield, because he's now got the talent at receivers to at least take those shots. So I expect the deep ball passing game to be much better from Lamar. I expect his accuracy to be better there. And overall, I'm expecting Lamar to be much better as a player, as a quarterback, and as a leader going into 2021. That's my expectations for him. Next up, we're going to talk about the running game. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are two-headed monster. I'm expecting both these guys to have a great year. In fact, they both may have a career year. I think both these running backs can eclipse over 1,000 yards rushing this year. And this goes back to my talk regarding Lamar's carries going down. I feel like the team is starting to make a change towards having Lamar take less and less carries on those design runs. We might see those design runs get cut in half this season. And those extra carries that are usually given to Lamar, those will go to J.K. and Gus Edwards, and they're going to take off for it. If you look at Gus's numbers, man, his numbers are amazing considering he was the third back at times for us last year, and for the other half of the year, he was a second back. So he's not even our number one back, but he's putting up amazing numbers. And J.K. Dobbins, he had a great rookie year, and I'm still will argue, if we would have started him and just had him be our guy for week 1, he would have had even better numbers. Far better numbers than what he put up this past year. So I'm expecting J.K. and Gus to be getting a lot more work done because they're going to give them a lot more carries, and I expect them to just take off, and they'll both be 1,000-yard rushers this year. That's my expectation for them. I'm hoping that will be the case. It all depends on if they get extra touches and extra carries, which they should get. if we decide to lower the design runs, which is what I expect the Ravens to do as a whole. Next up, the offensive line. We're pretty much solidified on the offensive line, you know, Stanley, pretty much for Stanley, for Bozeman, for Villanueva, and for Zeitler. We pretty much got that handled. However, we're still looking at that left guard position, and I believe somebody's going to emerge there, one of the Bens. And the Bens I'm putting my ticket on is Ben Cleveland. I think Ben Cleveland is going to take that position. So I can see our offensive line just being Stanley, who I believe he's going to come back. He's going to be healthy, you know, in training camp, and he'll just be healthy for the season. So Stanley, Cleveland, Bozeman, Villanueva, and Zeitler. I think that's just going to be the whole thing there together, and that will just be our offensive line. Expectations for them, I expect, number one, let's get it out the way. Number one, there will be no issues revolving the snapping. No more snapping issues in 2021. That's the number one expectation I have for the offensive line, and that better be the case. I'm not playing around. That was such an issue last year. It really showed up in the playoff game against the Bills. We cannot have that happen once again this season. So my expectations is the snapping issues will be gone this season, and we will no longer have that be a problem. That's my number one thing. Number two, I expect the offensive line as a whole to be a lot better in pass protection, because we're going to be passing the ball a little bit more. I'm expecting that to happen, so I'm hopeful that these guys can do it, especially when it comes to Villanueva and Zeitler, because they're coming from offenses that pass the ball a lot. And again, they didn't perform well when it comes to that, but those guys pass the ball significantly more than our offense does, because we're more of a run-first offense. So I know those guys can handle that load. And because they're going to be run blocking most likely more than pass protection, they're going to be a lot better when it comes to pass protection. I'm expecting that. So Villanueva and Zeitler, they're going to be a lot better there, which means overall the offensive line, when it comes to pass protection, should be a lot better. So Lamar Jackson should have better protection. This offensive, overall, he should have better pass protection and better snaps. Just overall, no issues with the snaps this upcoming season for the offensive line. Run blocking has never been an issue. It will continue to be great. We've always been a great run blocking team. That will continue to be the same. But pass protection and snap-related issues, that's not going to be a thing. That's not going to be an issue at all. We're going to have great pass protection, or at least I'm expecting us to have great pass protection and no more issues with snapping the ball. All right, next up, we're going to move on to the receivers, the last aspect to talk about regarding the offense. Let's get out the way. Tight ends, Mark Andrews, Nick Boyle. Those are our two tight ends for the most part. They're going to be great. With Boyle coming back and being healthy, I ain't got no issues with the tight end position. I know Andrews is going to be great. I know Boyle is going to be great about pass catching and blocking. No issues there. However, we may get somebody who can emerge as that third tight end, because we do so well with three tight end sets that it's not an issue. You know, one thing we don't really talk about, that we didn't actually talk about nearly as much last year, was the missing element of the three tight end sets. Because when you had three tight ends, it worked so well for how our offense was going. You know, losing Hurts was definitely tough, but at the end of the day, you know, we managed it. But what made it worse is when we lost Boyle. This year, we're going to get him back, and for the most part, I'm hoping a third tight end will emerge. And if we can get someone else to bring in that production as well as extra pass blocking, man, we're going to be great. We're going to be great. And one person I'm looking towards who could potentially take that third tight end position could be Oliver. So I don't know who of the tight ends could emerge, but I think Oliver could be that guy, so I'm hopeful. But other than that, the tight end position ain't going to be an issue. Now, let's get into the one we want to talk about the most, the wide receivers. These receivers, what are the expectations we are having for them? Well, I'm hopeful that these receivers this year will have a much bigger impact on the offense than they did last year. I'm expecting Hollywood Brown to be a much bigger threat, especially when it comes to the deep ball. Down the field, I need this guy to show up there, man, because him and Lamar last year, when it came to that deep ball connection, they weren't able to get it together, especially early on. They were trying it, but the chemistry just was not there, and they were missing each other. It started to get there towards the end of last season, but you know, it just wasn't enough. This year, I'm expecting Hollywood Brown to be a deep threat, and he will be utilized. Rashad Bateman, welcome to the team, my friend. I have huge expectations for you. I am hopeful that you can be our #1 receiver coming into the season. I think you've got the ability, you've got the attributes to be that #1 receiver. You're going to be our outside threat. You're going to be our outside guy. When Lamar is looking downfield outside the numbers, he's going to be targeting you. So I'm expecting you to have a big rookie season, and you're going to make an impact on this team. Next up, Sammy Watkins. You are also going to make a big impact on this team as long as you stay healthy. Of course, with Sammy Watkins, health is always an issue, but I am somewhat hopeful that he can be healthy at least a good chunk of the season. I think most of the season he can stay healthy. He may end up missing a game or two because of a tweak, but I think relatively this season, I believe he can stay healthy. And I'm hopeful that he can stay healthy. But regarding Sammy Watkins, him and Lamar Jackson, so far from these mini camps, they have built up a nice little chemistry, especially with the deep ball downfield. So I'm hoping Sammy Watkins, with his veteran experience, can come in and also be that threat down the field while also being a reliable weapon for Lamar Jackson to use. So both Bateman and Sammy Watkins, I have high expectations for, especially to start off the season. Now, maybe later down the season, if Sammy Watkins gets nicked up, then at that point we do have some concerns there. But to start off the season, I know he's going to be healthy, so he's going to be productive early on. Next up, Tylan Wallace and Devin Duvernay. Both of these guys are very similar players, and they can make the same impact. I think these two can find their roles in the offense. It's going to take their time, but I think these two, down the stretch of this season, can make an impact and become very reliable tools down the stretch. I'm interested to see how we're going to utilize these two in the passing game, because the speed they carry is just amazing. The speed they carry, the ability to catch the football, what they bring to the table is very useful. I think these two, in fact, can make an impact in our quick passing game. I feel like the Ravens this year may actually focus on utilizing the quick passes. Another thing that they can get if they take away those carries. Take away those design run carries from Lamar and split them between carries for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, as well as these quick passes to Devin Duvernay and Tylan Wallace. Get the ball in these guys' hands and let them go off. They got speed. Do it. I'm never going to forget, week 1, we actually did that with Devin Duvernay. We got the ball in his hands. He took off and got the first down. He has speed. Utilize the speed you have in these receivers. And I'm hopeful and I'm expecting that this team will utilize the speed they have at the receiving core. So I'm looking for Tylan Wallace and Devin Duvernay to make an impact revolving the short passing game, but down the stretch, they may become key important players. Last but not least for me, Miles Boykin. I'm going to be honest, I don't know where Miles Boykin is going to play into this. During minicamp, we were hearing talks about Boykin being impactful. However, we heard the same things last season, and nothing really came of it when it came to the regular season. I am hopeful that he can make a huge impact on our offense, but I'm not expecting him to. However, I think he's going to be a little bit more improved in terms of his route running. So I'm hopeful that him and Lamar Jackson can build some sort of connection. That's the only expectation I'm going to put up. My expectation for Miles Boykin is that he's going to have better chemistry with Lamar Jackson, so he is going to be utilized as a weapon. That's all I can hope for Boykin, because at this point, a lot of people's patience are running thin with him. I still have faith and belief in him, but a lot of people's patience are starting to run thin with him. Last season was not great, especially that first half of the season where him and Lamar just did not have the connection at all, nothing. So I'm hoping he can make an impact, and I'm expecting the chemistry between him and Lamar to be better. And of course, you can talk about James Prochet and the other receivers, but I'm not 100% sure Prochet will be one of our main guys we keep on the roster. So who knows? If he is, then I think he can also be utilized, because just utilized as a weapon, maybe you can get him in the short passing game or try to utilize him downfield or something. I don't know. I don't think Prochet is really going to make that much of an impact, because I'm not sure if he's going to be, he may not be one of the main receivers on our roster, so who knows? Yeah. Overall, I expect this offense to be much better passing-wise, and just better overall. The run game is the best in the league, but the passing game last year was ranked last. We have got to get this passing game to be better. If we can get it down to like 25 or even 20, if we manage to get our passing game to be 20, while also being the #1 rushing team in the league, man, that's a Super. We're going to the Super Bowl for that. Like, if that happens, we are definitely going to the Super Bowl. But overall, I'm expecting the passing game to be a lot better, and that's all thanks to our two guys, T. Martin and Keith Williams. I think we're going to hear both their names throughout the entire season. We will bring their names up several times. Either it may be due to either the offense, the passing game specifically not being where it needs to be, which I feel like there will be a waiting period for that. I think the first 4 weeks of the season, we should hold off on any criticism regarding the passing game because it takes time to get to where it needs to be. But once we get to week 5 and beyond, if that passing game is not where it needs to be, we'll be talking about T. Martin and Keith Williams a lot negatively if they're not getting it done. If they are getting it done, they will be mentioned positively. So we're going to talk about these guys either way throughout the season. We'll just see what happens. It should be a fun one. But moving on to defense. Now, defense for me, I don't have much to talk about the defense because when you look at our secondary, it's one of the best secondaries in the league. The only expectation I have for them is that they're going to be just as great, if not better, than they were last year. And with Tavon Young coming back, you know they're going to be even better than they were last year. So I expect the secondary to be just as great, if not better than last year. They're going to be one of the best secondaries, if not the best secondary in the league. And they're going to be terrorizing offenses throughout the league. Now, if there's one thing I could add, I think the secondary this year can actually produce more turnovers. We might see more picks because, you still have Marcus Peters that's just an absolute ball hawk, and he's going to get picks this season. But Marlon Humphrey himself, he's looking to get more interceptions. He's also looking to punch out more balls because him, fruit punch, doing his thing. So I expect more turnovers to happen regarding the secondary. Still going to be great coverage, still going to be arguably the best secondary in the league, but turnovers need to increase, and I think that is one thing that could happen for our secondary. Linebacking position, I expect the linebackers to be great, especially I'm looking at Patrick Queen. I think he's going to be breaking out. I expect him to break out because last year he was great. To start off the season, man, he was fantastic. Then he kind of cooled off, but overall for the season, he played great. He had over 100 tackles. He was doing his thing. This year, I expect him to be a little bit more of a break-off star in our defense, and I'm expecting him to have much more of an impact on our defense than he had last year. So I'm expecting big things from Patrick Queen. Overall, I think the linebacking position should be great. Now, as for our pass rush, that is interesting because you did lose Ngakoue and you did lose Judon. So those are two guys that definitely made an impact revolving our pass rush. However, I am hopeful that this year the pass rush will be at least a little bit more better. Not in sack production, but in pressure. Because I still don't feel right now with the way the defense is, I feel like they're missing a piece or two. If they can get Ingram or they can get Houston, I will have no problem. At that point, I think we can break through and actually get a lot of sacks. But without Houston or Ingram on this team, I'm not 100% sure our guys can do it. But who knows? We got a lot of young guys and a lot of veterans on that front seven, so I'm expecting our veterans to do their thing and still bring that pass rush and bring that aggression and bring that pressure. I feel for me overall, Odafe Owe, he may be one of the guys we end up talking about at the end of the season. I don't have any expectations I'm going to put on him specifically because it is his rookie year, but I am hopeful that he will make an impact on this defense. If not in terms of sack production, it should be in terms of pressure because this guy in college, there were plenty of situations where he was getting close to the quarterback and putting some serious pressure. So I think overall, even if our sacks do not increase, I think our pressure on the quarterback will be a lot more aggressive, and you'll see the pressure will cause turnovers to happen. Our pass rush will be helping our secondary this season, so I'm expecting a lot in terms of more pressure on the quarterback and really forcing these guys to make mistakes. So overall, I look at the defense. I think the defense is going to be just as great as it was last year, if not better. I expect the pass rush to be a little bit more aggressive, and they're going to be pressuring quarterbacks a lot more, even if they don't get sacks. I expect Patrick Queen to step up, and not even step up, he did step up. I expect Patrick Queen to be even better than he was his rookie season and to break out. That's the word, not step up, break out and become potentially a young star, defensive player, who knows. I'm just hoping he will be able to break out because it looks like he's heading toward that direction. And of course, I expect the secondary to be just as great, if not better than it was last year. And I'm expecting the turnovers to increase because we got to get those turnovers out, especially in the postseason. We need to force turnovers in the postseason. Turnovers make it so much easier. Go look at the losses we've had over the last 2 years. In the Titans game, we didn't get a single turnover. None against the Titans. And in the Bills, I do not believe we got a single turnover on Josh Allen or anybody else. 0 turnovers in those playoff games? No, we need our defense to step up and force turnovers in the postseason. So hopefully that will happen this year. Offensively, it all comes down to the pass game. The running game is still going to be great. The offensive line, I think, is going to be great in terms of run and pass protection. And we will no longer have any issues involving snapping the football. And Lamar Jackson, I expect him to be great and to be back into MVP form. It all comes down to this passing game. So Keith Williams, T. Martin, we're going to be looking at you. Can you get these receivers and this pass game to where it needs to be in order for us to truly break through and win a Super Bowl? Of course, last but not least, coaching. I expect coaching to be great. But again, T. Martin and Keith Williams are the most guys we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're still going to talk about Greg Roman because he is here. And, this may actually be a situation where it could be his last year if things don't work out. John Harbaugh is still going to be this great coach he is. I expect him to be a great coach and make smart decisions for the most part. But, we'll have moments where we look at Harbaugh and say, you should have been better as a coach. You should have been better at getting your staff prepared for this, and that. You know how it usually is when it comes to head coaches. But I still expect John Harbaugh to be great. He's one of the best coaches in the league. I'm not worried about that. Wink Martindale has one of the best defenses in the league, and he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. I have no problem with that. He's going to be great. Overall, I expect the coaching to be great. However, it's that passing game. That passing game is the biggest key for this upcoming season. So we'll see what happens with that. But with that being said, man, I'm just hopeful the Ravens can get back to the playoffs and at least make the AFC Championship game. That's my expectation. Overall, expectation this year, the Ravens finally break through, get to the AFC Championship game at least, and at that point, if it's against the Chiefs, if it's against the Bills, Titans, Browns, whoever makes it to that point, they're in the AFC Championship game and they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. That's all I can ask for. Hopefully we do break through and get to the Super Bowl because I want to get a Super Bowl championship this year. It would be dope if that happens. But yeah, other than that, with that being said, that is all I got for this. We'll see what happens. Training camp will be here in the next couple of weeks. And at that point, it's go time and the season will be here. And we'll just see how the team looks. That's really all I got. Thanks for watching, and I'm out of here, man. Peace!